with the prospect of racing in the Russian Grand Prix, scheduled to take place in Sochi on the 25th of September. President Vladimir Putin has historically been closely associated with his country's Formula One race. Four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel has said the event should be cancelled and he will not be there if the race goes ahead. Reigning champion Max Verstappen said, when a country is at war, it is not right to race there. Let's speak now to Bernie Ecclestone, former chief executive of the Formula One Group. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So should it go ahead in Sochi on the 25th of September?
Well, I think it depends an awful lot on exactly what the state is between the Ukraine and Russia. It's not going to make any difference if there's a race in Russia, Formula One race in Russia, to anything else that's happening in the world.
Oh, surely it would make a massive difference, a symbolic sign that the rest of the world doesn't tolerate unprovoked attacks, invasions for one European country and another, by saying that they're not going to engage in sporting events in that country.
Well, I suppose it's the people that are actually engaged in the event that would decide on that, because maybe other people think that it was the right thing for Russia to do. So how can anyone else judge exactly what's happening today unless they are close to it?
Well, some of the people engaged in the event have said they don't want the race to go ahead. The reigning champion, Max Verstappen. I mean, can it go ahead without Verstappen?
Yes, of course it can. He's one person in the event. It's entirely up to the FIA and the Formula One Group to decide whether or not they're going to take part in the race.
The invasion of Ukraine is a breach of international law. Is it not the case that sports events should not take place in countries that don't play by the rules, and certainly rules of international law when it comes to warfare?
We'll have to see what the international law says about this.
So in your view, you don't think that Putin has done anything wrong?
I'm not completely clear as to what and how. I understand this all started because he suggested that he didn't want NATO to occupy or be part in the country which they're allegedly invading. I think that's what happened. I think if they had agreed that it wouldn't happen and NATO wouldn't be there wouldn't have been this problem. So it's a case of really and truly what the world thinks about that whole position with NATO.
Although Vladimir Putin has said yesterday that this was about the denazification of Ukraine, which is, of course, an interesting choice of words, particularly given that the president of Ukraine is Jewish. You have defended Putin in the past. You told the Times 3 years ago that if someone had a machine gun and was prepared to shoot Putin, I would stand in front of him because he's a good guy. He's never done anything that isn't good things for people. Do you think that maybe Formula One and people connected with it are kind of blinded by Russian money and far too forgiving of what Vladimir Putin does?
I don't see what it's got to do with Russian money.
So it's not to do with money, it's an assessment of his character and leadership, your support for him?
No, as a person, I found him very straightforward and honourable, did exactly what he said he was going to do without any arguments.
But you can make many arguments that he hasn't been honourable, because only a week ago he was saying that the Americans and Europeans were being hysterical for suggesting he might invade Ukraine, and he's gone on to do exactly that.
Well, circumstances change, don't they?
Indeed they do. But so you're perfectly happy for Formula One to go ahead as planned, and you don't think it will damage the reputation of the sport, especially given that UEFA pulling the football out of St. Petersburg?
I think it's entirely up to the Formula One Group and the FIA to decide whether they think this is correct or not.
And you don't think it will be really damaging for the reputation of the sport if this happens?
Nothing in the world I can do about it. So I don't. Do I think it'd be damaging to the sport? I don't see why one sport should really follow another one, because imagine if Formula One decide to race there. Does that mean everyone should do the same, or vice versa? If they decided not to, should all the sports not to?
Well, There are a lot of people who disagree with you, Bernie Ecclestone. But thank you so much for coming on the programme and putting that view out there. Bernie Ecclestone there, former chief executive of the Formula One Group.